Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Teachers Talk Money, where I normally make videos that are designed to help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. Today's video is a little different, although of course still related. And I'm sitting down to make this video today because our education system is in crisis, and if you are a teacher, you are already aware of that. And if you're not a teacher, I definitely still encourage you to continue watching this video just to hear a little bit about one teacher's experiences right now in this pandemic in 2022. And my goal is really to help all of you teachers and other educators out there feel seen with what's happening right now, although I will say that I'm just going to be sharing my experiences today, and I have a county that is doing a lot more things right than a lot of other districts, which is honestly kind of breathtaking because my county is certainly floundering and making a lot of extremely harmful decisions. So to think that this is actually one of the better districts right now, it honestly is devastating and it takes my breath away. So I'm just gonna get right into it and start talking about what's going on in my little corner of the education system. And when I'm talking about education feeling like a sinking ship, I'm not just talking about the public education system, because I know that many teachers in private schools are dealing with the exact same problems. For context, I teach in a very large and powerful school district in my state, and in my opinion, I also have a very strong union. So here's how my district's been handling the pandemic. We were coming back from winter break last week, and we received a list of the number of positive tests in every single school, including students and staff. And essentially what my district had set out was that schools that were more than 5% quarantined with positive tests in a 2-week period were in the red zone, and that's the zone to be considered for virtual learning. When they initially sent out this list, of course, many of the schools were not at that point. There were only 11 schools in that red zone of over 5% transmission. This was obviously not reflective of what the actual numbers are, and if anybody had spoken to any educators at this time, they would have told them that. It was clear to me immediately, as soon as these numbers were put out, that it was more reflective of the testing accessibility than of the actual numbers of cases in schools. So first, I should say that those 11 schools that were in the red category did immediately go virtual. The next time they sent us the list with the color-coded schools, a majority of the over 200 schools in my district were in that red zone of over 5% positive tests and quarantined students and staff. It's also very clear in that moment that probably every school, or almost every school, would get to that point in the coming days with the number of tests that were finally coming in. And by the way, this testing was not happening across the board at every school. We just got word that we would have tests delivered to the school for all students and staff to use, and that's going to be happening on Monday, and I'm filming this on Friday, January 7th. So when it came out that my school was one of the schools that was now in the red zone, and looking at the numbers that we received last night on Thursday, we were at 7.2% transmission, so over 2 percentage points over the initial threshold they had set to be considered an unsafe level of transmission. But we were told to stay in person, so we did, and we will be going to school on Monday in person still completely, as will every other school on the list. They just sent out a community update today saying that they are no longer using the 5% transmission to consider schools for virtual, and the 11 schools that were initially virtual will also be reconsidered for in-person learning. According to my union, it was signaled that they would be expected to return in person. They are completely changing the metrics to suit their agenda at this point, and they're not telling us what the new metrics are, which my guess is that they will never disclose what the new threshold is to be considered for virtual learning, if one even exists, frankly. And I have to be honest, I feel really grateful actually to be in a county that we actually have access to the data of how many people are testing positive. Obviously that bar is on the floor. Every single school should have access to that data, but I know that many other districts are obscuring that, And so, like I said, my district being one of the better ones is actually giving us access to those numbers. I don't know, like I'm happy that they're meeting the very bare minimum. So of course the first concern with all of these issues is the way that it is harming students who are the people we're supposed to be serving. My students are extremely uneasy. Many are not coming to school regardless of COVID status. Many are sick and at home with COVID with their families. Those who are attending in person are highly anxious and distracted, and I can attest that there is just not a lot of learning going on because it's not an environment that's conducive to learning. Part of this is that we have about 10% of our staff out due to COVID-related reasons, so many students don't even have their primary teachers in the classroom, and that also means that the staff that are in the classroom have to cover for teachers who are missing because, yes, we are still in the middle of a substitute shortage. So the teachers who are present are having their planning time heavily impacted, and of course the teachers who are absent have classes full of kids that are unfortunately not meeting the same standards of learning that they would if their normal teacher was in the room with them. So those are the basics, and those are the things that a lot of schools are dealing with, but there's another entire layer to this, which is transportation, which I'm assuming other districts are dealing with this as well, but I haven't really seen as many people talking about this. We had 90 buses in our district that were not able to run their normal routes because so many bus drivers were calling out. This did not phase my district. We are still expected to be in person, and they unironically encouraged students to carpool, even though we're in the most high transmission phase of this pandemic that we ever have been. My district has a motto that I used to absolutely love, and that motto is all means all, which means that when we say that we believe in every student and we teach every student, that we need to show up for every student and have confidence in every single student. And it also means that we need to provide access for all students to succeed, not just some, which means we need to make sure that all students are safe, they are fed, and that they're having their social and emotional needs met. So when 90 buses worth of students do not have reliable transportation to school for an entire week and possibly more, I don't know how this is going to affect us going into next week, and our county just continues business as usual, it becomes extremely clear how much lip service was being given to this motto of all means all. All clearly means some. So every single day this week I have been dealing with these frustrations, I have been dealing with this uncertainty, as have my students, and my mental health is the worst it has been, frankly, since the beginning of the pandemic, and for reasons that are entirely out of my control and largely avoidable, and my students are feeling the exact same way. This has also impacted my ability to actually do my job and be an effective educator. When I don't know whether or not we'll be in person and virtual because the goalpost and the metrics keep changing, I cannot plan ahead. I have literally been planning one day at a time, and I have no idea if we're going to get updates by Monday on any of this, or if the calendar is going to change to reflect the interruptions that have been happening with learning. We essentially have no information on what's going to happen going forward. And the information that we did have, that going over the 5% threshold means that we would be considered for virtual, has been completely swept out from under us. So when educators cannot plan ahead, that means there's no backwards mapping, there is no working and progressing towards a larger goal, at least on a big picture scale. There's none of that big picture thinking, and learning is far, far less effective. As teachers, we know that this kind of planning day to day is ineffectual and it is extremely time consuming, but it's literally just the only option, is what so many of us are being forced to do right now. So, to wrap it up, here's what I'm seeing. Students and staff are all at extremely low points in their mental health right now. We are all either sick or worried about getting sick and transmitting this virus even more. We are not giving students the tools they need to succeed, including very basic needs such as reliable transportation and having their teachers in the room instead of a substitute. And finally, teachers do not have the tools they need to do their job effectively, including extremely basic needs like our planning time and the ability to actually plan ahead by knowing what is coming. And by that I mean literally just knowing what the next day will look like, because we have not been able to do that for this entire week. Teachers everywhere are asking for temporary virtual learning, and I just want to say really quickly that if you're about to comment below that teachers just don't want to go into work and that's why we want to do virtual learning, I ask that you please do not do that. Teachers across the board despise virtual learning. It takes away almost all of the things about our job that we love the most. And speaking from my experience personally, I was that student in high school who was at school every day because that was my safe space and the place I had to go. And I was the student who many teachers were my trusted adults. And now I am that teacher that is a trusted adult for many of these students, and I know just how hard their home lives are and what they're struggling with at home, and I know just how detrimental virtual learning will be. So believe me when I say that this is the only option. It is the only safe option for our teachers and our students. I cannot imagine what I would have done as a student if I had to transition to virtual learning because my home was not my safe space, school was. And I know for every kid who is open with me or other teachers about their struggles with their home lives, there are 5 more who are sitting in silence and dealing with the same or worse conditions. So please understand that I think virtual learning is the only viable option, and I would never be advocating for it if I didn't believe that. Not only is it the most viable option for public health and safety, but it is the most equitable option for students to actually learn during times of extreme staff shortages and attendance issues and transportation issues. And this has just been my experience in this week after coming back from winter break. Before winter break, we were facing, and by we I mean staff and students, we were facing weekly threats of mass shootings and mass school violence, which frankly I do not care to elaborate on all of the ways that that affected me and my students. So this is what I mean when I say that education feels like a sinking ship right now. And I am seeing lots of caring and skilled and revered educators jumping off board and switching careers. And there's absolutely not a single bone in my body that judges that or blames them for that. By the way, if you are one of those teachers that's considering a career transition, I'm going to link in some resources from the Teacher Career Coach in the video description because she is the expert on this. Personally, I'm not at that point yet. I want to hang on for as long as I possibly can or to see conditions improve, because this is the work I want to be doing and I love my students. But right now there is so much inexcusable BS going on in every single school district. It's all coming down on educators, and we are not okay, and our students are not okay. It's very clear that a powerful few are making decisions despite the, in my opinion, very vocal majority of students and staff members who are calling for virtual learning. And again, this is just in one school district. If you are having similar experiences in your school district right now, comment below. I want to hear all of your stories. I've already gotten so many Instagram DMs about people dealing with similar stuff, and frankly, they are breathtaking to read. So if you are dealing with this stuff and you are nervous and anxious and scared, I promise you, you are not alone. And we just need to show some solidarity and come together, even if it kind of feels like we're screaming into the void. I don't really know how to end this video because it honestly all feels very hopeless right now, but I guess I have to end it somewhere. So please share your own experiences in the comments below, and let's keep trudging through this together and hoping and fighting for some improved conditions for ourselves and our kids. And that's really all I got for you. So I will see you in the next video. Bye everybody.